Okay, settle in because this one's a bit of a ride. It's called The Lighthouse Keeper's Secret. The fog hung thick and heavy, a damp, clinging shroud that muffled the rhythmic crash of waves against the jagged cliffs. For Sarah, the fog was more than just weather. It was a constant companion, a metaphor for the unease that had settled deep in her bones ever since moving to the isolated coastal town of Port Blossom. Her husband, Thomas, had inherited the lighthouse from his grandfather, a stoic seafaring man whose ghost seemed to linger in the salt-laced air. Thomas, a history professor, had romanticized the idea of a quiet life, of escaping the cutthroat world of academia and embracing the solitude of the sea. Sarah, a vibrant journalist with a thriving career in the city, had reluctantly agreed, trading deadlines and cocktail parties for long, silent evenings and the mournful cry of gull. The jealousy started subtly. It began with the way Thomas looked at the old lighthouse logbooks, his eyes gleaming with a fascination she couldn't share. It festered when he spent hours meticulously polishing the lens, treating it with a reverence he rarely showed her. She felt like she was competing with the dead man's legacy, with the relentless, indifferent sea. Then there was Amelia, the town librarian, a sweet, seemingly harmless woman with a wealth of knowledge about local history. But Amelia had known Thomas his entire life. Their shared history, their inside jokes, their comfortable camaraderie, it chipped away at Sarah's confidence, fueling a suspicion she desperately tried to suppress. The late night at the town's annual fisherman's feast, when she saw Amelia and Thomas laughing a little too closely under the dim light of the strung-up lanterns, didn't help either. One particularly suffocating foggy morning, Sarah decided to explore the town. Port Blossom was quaint but suffocating, a place where everyone knew everyone's business and secrets seemed to fester like barnacles on a hull. She wandered past the general store, the salty-eyed fish market, and finally the small brick library. She found Amelia cataloging books, her brow furrowed in concentration. "Hello, Amelia," Sarah said, forcing a smile. Amelia looked up, her eyes widening slightly. "Sarah, what a surprise. Just browsing?" "Yes, actually, I was hoping you could tell me a bit about the lighthouse history. Thomas is so engrossed in it, and I feel left out." Amelia's expression softened. "Of course, the lighthouse is the heart of Port Blossom. Generations have relied on its light." She launched into a detailed history recounting stories of shipwrecks, daring rescues, and the legendary keepers who had manned the beacon. As Amelia spoke, Sarah noticed a small, worn photograph tucked into a book on the counter. It showed a young Thomas beaming, standing next to a little boy with bright, mischievous eyes. The boy looked vaguely familiar. "Who's that?" Sarah asked, pointing to the photograph. Amelia hesitated, a shadow passing over her face. That was Leo, a long time ago." "Was?" Sarah pressed. Amelia sighed. "Leo disappeared when he was 6 years old, vanished without a trace. It was a terrible time for Port Blossom." A chill ran down Sarah's spine. "Disappeared? Kidnapped?" "No one knows," Amelia said, her voice whisper. "Some say he wandered off into the woods and got lost. Others whispered about a stranger who had been seen in town." That night, Sarah couldn't sleep. The image of Leo's face haunted her. She couldn't shake off the feeling that this long-ago disappearance was somehow connected to the suffocating atmosphere of Port Blossom. The next day, driven by a gnawing unease, Sarah began digging into the old newspaper archives at the library. She found articles about Leo's disappearance, the frantic search efforts, the heartbroken parents. One article mentioned that Leo had been playing near the docks the day he vanished. She found something else too, an old article about a local fisherman, notorious for his temper and gambling debts, who had left Port Blossom abruptly shortly after Leo's disappearance. The article mentioned that he had a distinctive scar on his left hand, the same scar Sarah had noticed on one of the local fishermen just the other day. Driven by a hunch, Sarah started looking through the old lighthouse logbooks. Thomas had been meticulously transcribing them. But she skipped ahead, searching for entries around the time of Leo's disappearance. And then she found it, a single cryptic entry in Thomas's grandfather's handwriting. "Saw him by the rocks, told him to be careful." The entry was dated the day Leo vanished. Sarah confronted Thomas that evening. He was up in the lantern room, polishing the lens. The rotating light cast long, distorted shadows across his face. Thomas, she said, her voice trembling slightly. I know about Leo. Thomas froze, his back stiffening. What are you talking about? Sarah showed him the logbook entry. Your grandfather saw Leo by the rocks the day he disappeared. What did he see, Thomas? Thomas remained silent for a long moment. Then he slowly turned to face her, his eyes filled with a pain she had never seen before. My my grandfather, he felt responsible, Thomas said, his voice hoarse. He saw Leo playing too close to the edge. He warned him, but but he didn't stay to make sure he was safe. He always carried that guilt. But what happened to Leo? Sila pressed. Thomas hesitated again. There were rumors, whispers about a fisherman who was in debt, a man known for his temper. My grandfather suspected. He suspected the fisherman had taken Leo for ransom, maybe, but he had no proof. He felt powerless. But why didn't he go to the police? He was afraid, Thomas said. Afraid of what the fisherman might do, afraid of bringing shame on his family. He chose to keep silent. It was a decision that haunted him for the rest of his life. Sarah felt a wave of nausea wash over her. The truth was a heavy, suffocating weight, but she also felt a surge of anger. Anger at the fisherman, anger at Thomas's grandfather, and anger at the secret that had poisoned this town for so long. We have to tell someone, Thomas, she said. We have to tell the police. Thomas shook his head. It's been decades, Sarah. There's no proof. It will only dredge up old pain. But Leo's family deserves to know the truth, Sarah insisted. The next morning, Sarah went to the local police station and spoke to the sheriff. She told him everything she knew about Leo's disappearance, the fisherman with the scar, and the cryptic logbook entry. The sheriff, a wary man with kind eyes, listened patiently. He was initially skeptical, but Sarah's persistence, her unwavering conviction, convinced him to investigate. He questioned the fisherman, who initially denied any involvement, but under pressure, he eventually cracked. He confessed to kidnapping Leo, hoping to get money from his wealthy parents, but something went wrong and Leo died accidentally. In a panic, he buried the boy's body in a shallow grave in the woods. The fisherman was arrested, and the search for Leo's remains began. Days later, they found him. Leo's family, who still lived in Port Blossom, finally had closure. The revelation sent shockwaves through Port Blossom. The fog of secrecy that had shrouded the town for so long began to dissipate. People started talking, sharing their memories of Leo, their suspicions, their regrets. Thomas, initially resistant, eventually came to terms with his grandfather's actions. He understood that silence, even when born of good intentions, could be just as damaging as malice. The experience changed Sarah and Thomas. The jealousy and resentment that had festered between them dissolved in the face of a shared purpose. They learned to communicate, to trust each other, to support each other. They started volunteering at the local community center, helping children from disadvantaged backgrounds. One evening, as they stood together in the lantern room, watching the beam sweep across the water, Sarah said, This place, it's still beautiful, isn't it? Thomas nodded. It is, but it's more than just a beautiful place, Sarah. It's a place of healing, a place where we can learn from the past and build a better future. The fog still rolled in, but it no longer felt suffocating. It felt like a gentle embrace, a reminder that even in the darkest of times, there is always light to be found. They stayed at the lighthouse, knowing that while the past could cast long shadows, it didn't have to define them. They had faced the darkness together, and they had emerged stronger, more resilient, and more deeply connected. They learned that even in a small town, secrets couldn't stay buried forever, and that truth, however painful, could ultimately set you free. The lighthouse, once a symbol of isolation and unease, became a beacon of hope, a testament to the power of truth, forgiveness, and the enduring strength of the human spirit.